All right, and we are here with Peter Gore, Global Head Energy and Natural Resources for Standard Chartered Bank. It's great to have you here with us.
Thank you, Didi. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. Now, we have seen a lot of African ministers at this conference today. They've come to, sort of tell us why their country's energy sector is an attractive proposition. Everyone is here really to speak to investors and operators, and you are from the finance sector, so it's great to have you and get a chance to speak to someone about funding, which is a major issue in the sector. I just wonder, Africa, is Africa still competitive in the area of funding? There's so many other countries that operators and investors can put their money into when you talk about the energy industry. Does Africa still stand a chance as a whole?
Oh, I think Africa definitely has a chance, and the reason is some of the largest demand in the market is coming out of Africa. Africa demand is increasing at 2.5 times over the next 20 years, but the funding need to meet that requirement is over $1 trillion. So the key for Africa, it is competing with other parts of the world, especially Asia. But Africa has a great opportunity in terms of natural resources. It's obviously where the hydrocarbons are, and a market that is going to grow significantly over the next 20 years.
So really it is just about providing a favorable environment for investors, and then they will bring the money in.
Well, capital flows go to the point of least resistance. So if there's resistance in an investment profile, they'll go elsewhere. So I think one of the messages that I provided today was national governments have got to provide an environment that's attractive to investors. And investors are a broad group. It's not just banks, it's not just equity, it's not just private equity, it's also sovereign wealth funds, it's hedge funds, and it's newly emerging non-regulated financial institutions that are looking at Africa. Having a fiscal regime and a tax policy that's supportive to investors so they can get an adequate return is key.
And also managing costs, I can imagine, is key as well, because we have a lot of big projects in Africa and they have years of delays. And sometimes, yes, sometimes it's because of funding, but sometimes it's also because, the cost is being managed very badly. Do you agree?
I agree in the sense that you've got to have a low-cost project. But I think investors look at several things. First, they look at the country that it's in and understand the dynamics of that country. They look at the management teams involved. That includes the national governments. They look at the overall project and what the demand growth in that project, and they look at the infrastructure. So there's not one answer to an investor. They're looking at a multitude of variables, and the key for Africa is making sure that there's transparency and there's mitigation on those variables.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's leave it there.
Thank you, Didi.